Hello and welcome to your in-depth weekly horoscope for week commencing the 1st of August. This is for the Sun or the Ascendant. As we come into this new month, what I'm going to do is give you a flavour of what to expect for us all collectively. But please stay with me as I dive deep to give each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces a much more forensic interpretation. Now, this week does see an incredibly powerful combination of energies in the sign of Taurus. Taurus, of course, is very much about the foundation of our situations. It's about stability. It's a fixed sign. But the North Node, which moved into Taurus on the 18th of January, is almost like the karma of our attitude towards consumption, food, anything to do with consumerism, but it can also be to do with the crust of the planet as well. Now, when we put Uranus in the mix, that can be very much to do with truth, but it can also be to do with confrontation and being much more changeable in a sign that resists change, so that can create tension. And then Mars in the mix, that creates an ignition point, particularly with Uranus. So the potential for weather events that are quite extreme is definitely increased with this combination, and it can make us much more aware of the direction of travel that we're going in terms of, you know, the type of fuels that we've used traditionally and the way that we've perhaps embraced fast food rather than enjoying more rustic consumption of food and making food from scratch. That's much less popular than it ever used to be. I think Uranus can throw some light on all of this and give us a bit of a shock to look at things again. So there can be a lot of tension this week, but also the outcome of our behaviour over a period of time. Now, the Sun and Mercury, of course, the Sun's in its home zone of Leo. Mercury's there at the start of the week, but on Thursday it does move into one of its two signs that it governs, and this one is Virgo. In this case, Mercury is very much about dry precision. This is about attention to detail. And that can be a very good thing. So if you've got a creative idea, but you want to bind it into something that's more workable, then Mercury will certainly help that process. There's also on Friday a quarter moon in the sign of Scorpio. Now, this can bring up some issues to do with jealousy, possessiveness, control in any relationship, but particularly a close personal relationship. For some folks, it could mean that we're going to have a big fascination with someone, particularly with Mars and Uranus in the mix, and it could be something that's very electric, but whether it will be long lasting is another matter. Now, it just so happens that Mars and Saturn are also in a right angle this week. This is really quite challenging. This is where we have Mars, which is very much about moving quickly, instant gratification, coming up against the more resistant energies and limiting energies of Saturn. Saturn in the sign of the collective, Aquarius in a retrograde, Mars in the sign of Taurus, very much about consumption. Quickly, I want it now, that instant gratification. So I think there's going to be some more potential shocks and pushbacks around the cost of living, unfortunately. We could also see some industrial disputes with all this mix of energies, but there is, towards the end of this week, a quite enchanting link between Venus and Neptune, both in water signs, Venus in Cancer, very nurturing, and Neptune in its home sign of Pisces. If you are lucky enough to have that electric connection to someone, but there is also some more spiritual or emotional connection beyond the physical plane, then this could be a really exciting opportunity. For those of us in ongoing relationships, I think the important thing to avoid this week is being too fixed in our ideas, trying to be flexible, with four lots of fixed energy going on with the quarter moon. So we've got the Leo stuff, the Scorpio quarter moon, we've got that cluster of energy in Taurus, plus we've got the Saturn in Aquarius. There's a lot of fixed energy and then a lot of frustration can play out this week. So it's going to be important to try to keep cool But please stay with me for my in-depth examination of your sign. But if you would like to ascend above zodiac astrology and understand more about your personal astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data in terms of your time, date and place of birth, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your life. But beyond that, also in my 30% off special offer package, a 12-month personal horoscope. No 2 charts are ever the same. They're completely individually produced for the person that provides that data. And if you'd like to take advantage of that, please see the link below. Finally, crash through the 100,000 subs mark. We're pretty well nearly at the 101,000 mark, may even be through it by the time you watch this. But if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. If you have done already, thank you so much. So Gemini, your week commencing the 1st of August forecast sees accumulation of energy in a very sensitive and tender part of your situation. Your great gift is your agility, your mental dexterity, your ability to articulate ideas quickly, amusingly, to really attune yourself to different types of people. And it's such a gift. But this 12th house energy is very deep and very profound. And it's asking you perhaps to look at some tender strands in your situation that you may have been resisting. If you're someone who's really interested in astrology and you've been working hard with Uranus in your 12th house in recent years and with the North Node in your 12th house since January, I think this is going to be a much less challenging week. But if you're someone who has been very much in the intellectual sphere still, the air sphere of the rulership of your sign, this earth energy but being conveyed through the 12th house of water suggests that there could be some sudden and rather pointed pieces of communication or psychological insights or realizations that could be quite jolting. Your nervous system might be on edge. Some people have been finding sleep very difficult because of Uranus's transit through the sign of Taurus. And of course, Uranus is also in a very sharp, abrasive right angle with Mars, which is in your sector of expansion. But the 9th house where Saturn is can also be amplification. But hold on, you're thinking, isn't Saturn to do with more limitation? Well, it is, but your instincts with Saturn and Aquarius is to expand, but through hard work. You know, it may be about conveying your ideas. It may be through writing. It could be to do with experiencing more travel. It could be through higher education. It could be through publishing. So the need to express in that area, which has been strong but requiring a lot of commitment and self-discipline, is challenging that potentially very tender but potentially volatile mix between Mars and Uranus. And the North Node is more to do with your psychological karma that you've been developing over a long period of time. So I think there may be some uncomfortable discussions this week, or those uncomfortable thoughts with yourself about perhaps the tender and more vulnerable parts of your nature. But if that does happen, see this as a great opportunity to release the things that no longer serve you. It's just that with Mars in the mix, Mars in the 12th house can have a potential to remind us of past painful events that we think we've dealt with, and suddenly they can be activated again, and it can cause tears or rage, one of the two, and it can be quite polarized because of the tenderness of the 12th house, but the force and energy of Mars. Put Uranus in there, which is a much more free, radical influence, along with Mars, then something could come to the surface that you may not be entirely expecting. Now, the other part of this is if you are someone who's very psychologically aware and attuned, your ability to work out other people and convey how you feel about them could also be important. particularly if there are people you work with that you know don't necessarily have your best interest. The 12th house can be secret enemies, and these people could be absolutely charming to your face, but you're smart enough to know who they are, and you could be tempted to be much more robust in how you relate to those people this week. But with your ruler moving on Thursday, that's very much asking you to think about the emotional dimension of your world, not just the spiritual and psychological and articulated part of your world that's coming through Leo. It's asking you to think about your physical domain. So Mercury in the 4th house can be your home. It can be thinking about working from home if you don't already do that. If you have been doing that through COVID, the next few weeks could be seeing you do it again, or thinking, is this something that maybe you'd like to adapt and do more of? But the quarter moon can create quite a lot of nervous tension. And with Saturn and Uranus in a square, that is going to be potentially a feature of this week, because there can be some amplification, strangely with Saturn being more limiting, amplification of the tender things in your situation. So I feel that there is the potential this week to really be a little bit down on yourself. The one thing you shouldn't do is compare yourself to anyone else. Don't benchmark yourself intellectually, emotionally, materially to others. I think that's going to be a very negative thing to do. And remember, Venus is in a very positive part of your chart for your finances. And it is forging an enchanting link with Neptune towards the end of this week. And if you have been really working hard at your inner development, and you have been expressing your ideas to a wider audience, there could be good financial news or news linked to a job later this week, but it must be with people that you feel safe and comfortable with, and that you really feel that you would be validated by, and that, as best as you could know, would be trustworthy towards you.